Percy Jackson, everybody. You've either read it or you haven't. That's how a book works. Either way, here's my book project for the end of the 2021 school year. We'll be going over plot, characters, themes. There's one other one, setting. I think that's it. Not in that order at all. Either way, let's go. Characters. We have 3 main characters, 2 side characters, and 4 god characters. Although, technically 5 because Dionysus exists. And, he doesn't really play a big important role, but he's also there. So, 9 characters. Although, technically 10 if you count Dionysus, although, again, he really doesn't do that much. Percy Jackson. Spoiler alert, if the cover of the book and his full name, Perseus, didn't already tip you off, his father is Poseidon. He's a 12-year-old troublemaker with ADHD and dyslexia, and occasionally quite the temper. Although the official Wikipedia for Percy Jackson describes him as changeable like the sea and hard to predict. So that makes it hard for me to summarize his entire character in a paragraph. Basically, he's 12, he's a troublemaker, he loves his mom, he doesn't have any friends, and he's our main character. Annabeth Chase. I had to look up her last name for this, not gonna lie. Daughter of Athena, and some professor dude that we really don't care about that much. She's super smart. Percy describes her as cute because of course there's gotta be a love interest. She's been at Camp Half-Blood, don't worry, I'll explain that later, since she was 7. Grover Underwood. I also had to look up his last name. Spoiler alert again, he's a satyr, aka half goat, half man. He's Percy's only friend for a while until Annabeth rolls around. He's not especially good at anything. What does he even do in the book? He, releases water in a water park that one time and talked to animals. Here's our god characters. We got Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, and Ares. Hate that guy. Zeus, the god of thunder, mad that his master bolt, aka his weapon, got stolen, and is blaming Poseidon for it because he thinks that the water dude stole it. Poseidon, Percy's dad, didn't steal the master bolt, unsurprisingly, and is blaming Hades for it because of course he is. Hades is blamed for everything because obvious Satan parallel is obvious. Now, you may have noticed that I didn't really go into detail for those 3, and it's because really we don't meet them until the end of the book. So really, telling you about them is really a spoiler, but really it isn't, but it is, but it isn't. Some of it is, they didn't have much character. However, Ares, god of war, and various other things probably, is, excuse me, Mrs. B, an asshole. We do meet him more times in the book than the other 3, but he doesn't exactly have much more character other than evil and asshole. Mrs. B, I will do push-ups if you want me to for swearing, I'm sorry. Side characters. Sally Jackson, aka Percy's mom, also the light of my life, she is so wholesome. But she dies pretty early on. But that means that she's in the underworld, which Percy's going to, anyways, to go and see if Hades stole the Master Bolt. And there are plenty of myths in Greek mythology where somebody goes down to the underworld and brings someone back, or at least tries to. So there's another one of Percy's motivations. Along with the quest, we'll get there. Luke Castellan. I had to look up his name too. That's a very common theme. He, gives Percy some flying boots to go on his quest, even though Percy's literally the enemy of Zeus right now, who owns the sky, so it'd literally be it wouldn't be good for Percy to use them, so why would you give them to him? Oh yeah, he's the son of Hermes too. Settings. Why did I say it like that? Camp Half-Blood. I told you we were gonna get there. It's, well, a camp for half-bloods. It's pretty dangerous for half-bloods out in the real world on account of them, attracting monsters. So there's a camp for them to all be together. In the same place. Grouped together. Yep. All of these children who attract monsters all in the same place. That's smart. There's a magic barrier, don't worry, they're not that dumb. For most of the book, they're traveling from Long Island, where Camp Half-Blood is, all the way to LA, where the entrance of the underworld is. I can't decide on whether or not to make a joke about how the underworld is located in LA, or a sarcastic remark about how far the trio has to travel. on foot, mind you. So basically, there's a lot of traveling, and they don't really stay in one place for all that long. Usually it's just like chapter bursts, and maybe like 2 chapters in other places. But basically, they travel over the entire country, and Camp Half-Blood is really the only place worth explaining. Plot. So, since this is, the first 9 chapters of the book, spoilers, although I don't really know why you're here if you didn't want to hear spoilers, but... Percy starts out at Yancey Academy, aka a boarding school for troubled children. Percy has been switching schools his entire life, so he hasn't really stayed in one place all that long. However, in this school, he's managed to make a friend, Grover. And for the time being, Grover looks like, a normal kid, not half goat. Percy has finally managed to stay in a school for almost an entire year. So now, it's the end of the year, we're going on a field trip. And of course, because something had to go wrong, the math teacher, Mrs. Dodds, takes Percy to an obscure place in the place that they're visiting. So in this location, Mrs. Dodds literally turns into a demon called a Fury, not a furry. It's not related. I thought it was, since their spellings are so close to each other, but nah. Then, Percy's history teacher comes on in and chucks him a pen, and Percy uncaps the pen and it turns into a sword. Without thinking too hard about it, Percy vaporizes his math teacher. Side note, the chapter titles are hilarious. The title for this chapter, the first chapter, is literally just, I accidentally vaporized my math teacher. They're great. Another reason why I recommend you read this. Percy goes back to Grover and asks him if he saw any of that stuff that happened with Mrs. Dodds, or if he was just hallucinating or something. And Grover responds, "Who is Mrs. Dodds?" The heck? Oh, really, Grover? Oh, really? The rest of the students also react that way when Percy goes up to them, practically shaking their shoulders, just like, "Do you know who Mrs. Dodds is?" He doesn't actually do that, but I just like to think that he does. Eventually, Percy comes home to his loving mother and his crap stepfather. I hate you, Gabe. It's very personal. Anyway, Percy's mom, the light of my life, takes Percy on a little vacation to a beach house that they know. And while Percy's sleeping, a hurricane happens, which is weird, because they're not in a place where hurricanes happen. So that's your first clue that, something is up. So Grover shows up, full satyr form, and we're just gonna gloss right over that, because Percy's mom is now driving them to a place that Percy's father recommended that he goes. Mind you, Percy has never met his dad, and he still doesn't know who he is. So it's weird that Percy's dad is recommending a place for Percy to go when he wasn't even born yet. So Grover clues Percy in on the whole, being a half-blood thing. And when they're about to arrive at the place, they crash into a ditch. Don't worry, nobody's dead though. Yet. But then the Minotaur shows up. And Percy's mom straight up dies in a flash of golden light, which I thought was weird. But, alright. Percy fights the Minotaur, and then promptly collapses into the gate of Camp Half-Blood, which is the place, if you didn't already assume that. Percy gets healed, has the nicest weeks of his life, even though his mom literally just died, until one night, where Poseidon claims Percy as his child. Which is weird, because Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades had, some sort of pact together that they wouldn't have any more, earthly children. So yeah, this is a pretty big deal. But, Zeus did already break that promise once, so why is everybody all so mad at Poseidon and Percy, you ask? Well, it's because Percy is the main suspect in stealing Zeus's Master Bolt. And if Percy doesn't get the bolt back soon, then World War III is gonna happen. And nobody wants that. So soon after he gets claimed, Percy, Annabeth, and Grover all go on a quest to retrieve the Master Bolt. And that's the rest of the book, pretty much. And obviously, hijinks ensue because, it's a book. But you have to read the book to get the rest of the story, because I'm not summarizing that already, and I've already spent like an hour on this, and I'm only on page what? Wait, am I on the last page of my script? I'm on the last page of my script. And honestly, I left out a lot in the beginning. For instance, Percy sprays pretty much the entirety of Ares' cabin at Camp Half-Blood with toilet water. Now, depending on who you are, you might want to miss that, but you don't want to miss it. It's interesting. Themes. Don't worry, this one's short. Numero uno. Through times of struggling, you will find who your true friends are. Numero dos. If a situation feels shady, it probably is, and it's better not to risk it. Numero tres. If you're worried about someone noticing that small blemish on your face or how her hair is a little messed up, just know that Percy literally faces off with a god in front of a crowd, and they call him a hero for it. That last one was a little bit of a joke, but take that how you will. All that. But if it did somehow relate to you, look up the imaginary audience, because it's a real thing, y'all. Educate yourselves. Okay, I wasted an hour or so recording this, so hope y'all like it. I hope it turns out well. Yeah.